Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yes, okay. Are we missing some people here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9. Eh? Where's the other 4? 4? You guys have classes this morning? Everything okay, huh?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, this morning is it the who is taking you for the class this morning? The soft soil?
Dr. Lina.
Dr. Lina. Okay. Right. And RM class was actually Dr. Alsiki, right?
Yes.
Okay, no issue. Let me turn on the QR. Huh? Can see the screen? Yeah. Okay, any more checking in? Okay, if no, I will shut this off first. Okay. Right. Good afternoon, everyone. And yes, this week I'll be taking you for cost management. Okay, and I think this is a follow on. The courses are just flowing through at the moment. Okay. I have yet to discuss with Dr. Lee. I may want her to do risk management with you first next week, but not confirmed yet. If not, then I will do quality management. Because we have, I've got some because the assignments is actually related to because the assignment is actually related to cost and risk lah. So we may I'm going to negotiate and discuss with her whether we can take Toh just mentioned that his daughter fall down and he can't come to class. Yeah, I think she probably broke her nose or something like that. Okay, never mind. Right. Yes, so those of you who need to leave early, so let's get started huh? Okay, so what happened is we'll see that the assignment the project that you guys are supposed to be doing is in the group of 3, I think, yeah. And you can go less, but you cannot go more. And I strongly suggest that you finish up Dr. Lee's assignment. Are you guys having finished already your assignment with Dr. Lee?
Not yet, doctor.
Not yet, because you see, the assignment, the information from that assignment, you have to translate into the information for the project, you see. So I will be putting up the project brief on eLead by next week. Probably early next week, but today I will also explain a little bit about the requirement of the project as well. So if you don't have her part, we cannot do this part, you see. And for last semester, people who are not getting very good grades, like your CGPA is less than 3, I strongly suggest you don't just hand in your assignment just like that and then expect to get a mark, you see. So better you go back to Dr. Lee and ask her check your assignment first, because if your grade is very poor, and you don't score for the assignment and you don't score for the project, you may not be able to get good marks for this particular subject because it's 50-50, you know. So I do strongly suggest people, if you have the ability, if you do have that time, we can finish a bit early. Let all your lecturer go and check the assignment. Okay, like other subjects as well, it helps because you want to score as high as possible for all your assignment and project, so that the stress is a bit less when it comes to the exam later. So I'm not saying that you can get high marks for a project and assignment and then later on exam you don't care already but our aim is to get as high as possible, maybe at least a 70 for every subject. Then your CGPA will look good and you don't have the stress of CGPA. Because this is very different from undergraduate studies. Whichever university that you come from, undergraduate studies, usually 50 marks is passing. But here for masters, I remind you all again, passing is 60. And if you get only 60 to 64 for all your subjects, it is not enough for you to graduate. This is something that I've already mentioned in your class. During orientation. And I remind everybody again, you have to be very serious. If you fail 1 or 2 subjects, likely is you will be your CGPA will drop very drastically and then you cannot recover. And then you pay for 1-2 semesters fees already and then end up you can't get your degree and nobody can help you with anything because of that. See, so it is something to take note. Your CGPA has to be more than 3 for you to walk up that graduation stage next year. So how to get CGPA more than 3? It is to get 65 and above for all the subjects. Every semester, you must have CGPA more than 3, okay? If you have CGPA less than 3 for one particular SEM, the following SEM, if you still cannot pull it back up again, the third SEM, you'll be automatically gaga berhenti. Okay, so that is how serious the consequences is. So I don't remind you guys again and again about this as a program coordinator. So there are some of you are okay. Those new students, you take note of this. 5 of you, you must make sure that your CGPA is actually more than 3. Your scoring mark should be 65 and above. Okay, so go and serious notes about your assignment. I have been telling all the lecturers as much as possible, give your assignment as early as possible. Mine is going to be out by early next week, so that will be week 7. So you have about another 6 weeks to complete, but you have to complete Dr. Lee's assignments first. You cannot do her assignment and do mine at the same time and expect things to be fine. You have to finish hers and then move on to mine. So by not finishing hers, you're not going to be able to move on to mine, and then don't say that later on, oh, sorry, the assignment is so late. we cannot finish. That sort of thing, or simply do and tuck it in, you see. So not like that. Absolutely. Okay. So this is week 7 already. By week 13, you'll be sitting for your exams, and by end of week 13, by beginning of week 14, everything has to be in so that we can give you the marks for you to finish that particular SEM. So all you have is only about another 5 to 6 weeks for you to complete all of your assignments and all that. Okay. Don't tell me that you're not going to hand in assignments and all that. That is very, very silly. Okay. Right. So you have to be able to mark the time properly and adjust yourself and all that. So we have gone through scope management, we've gone through resources management, we have gone through how resources are important because it is the beginning, is like the foundation for time, cost, quality management. Resources is very important. Yeah, so especially for time and cost. So understanding your resources, so whatever that you've done for your resources in assignment 1, whereby you are doing your productivity rate and then coming up with the time and all that, is absolutely the foundation for cost management. Okay. And then you've also finished all the scope management, including economic studies, project selection and all that, and then WBS has already been given to you in the recording, and also Dr. Lee, I think, has already also went through with you a little bit about work breakdown structure. So all this is foundation. All this is the foundation for cost management. So it's like we are moving in, building up the pyramid bit by bit. So the bottom bit is knowing your scope of work, coming up with the WBS, the work breakdown structure, the product breakdown, the work breakdown, and then after that, understanding the resources that is needed to do the project, and then after that, moving on to create your time schedule. And now with the time schedule, you can create your costing schedule, your cost schedule, your cost detail worksheet. Okay, your estimators worksheet. So this is how the flow of things are at the moment. Okay. And yeah, it is flowing through. So any part that you do not know how to do, any part that you are lost, basically it's going to be lost till the end. So you have to get everything sorted out as early as possible. Okay. If you have any issues, like I said, we are available in the university. You can come and see us anytime. If you're not from Kuching, you can always email us. You can always request for an online meeting and all that. We are very much happy to meet you as well via online meeting. And if you need us to take a look at your assignments, and comment before you submit, please, by all means, do so, because we are not going to penalize you based on the first draft. It is the first draft, second draft, third draft. We will only mark you on the final version that is submitted. The marks will be given on the final version. So please come for consultancy. Please consult any one of your lecturers whom you are not very sure about your assignments or project. Okay? So yes, cost management is one of the very important aspects of project management of any project, to be honest. Okay, and yeah. So what happened is there is it is another component of time. That it's a critical success mark a project, whether you're a good project manager or not. Basically, the consideration usually comes from whether you can actually fulfill the project within the budget that was allocated, and then over the time that is being given to you within the to the satisfaction of the customers or to the satisfaction of your client. So these are the usual 3 objectives that we want to meet for most engineering projects, for most civil engineering projects, for any construction project. Time and cost and quality, they are typical things that we are talking about and about. And like if you are all engineers, I think you are all working on site. This is something that we don't really have to repeat 10 times, 20 times, and especially those of you who are still who just graduated as well. I think we have been taking a lot of emphasis in any project management course on time and cost as well. Yeah, so it's a general overview about how important it is. But here I want you all to really understand that cost management is just not when you finish designing the project and then you go to the QS, and the QS come up with the costing, and the BQ, come up with the preliminary budget, and then come up with the BQ, and then send it out for tendering. And then when you're contracted tender, and then this is the construction cost, you pick the contractor, and this is your final construction cost. And then that's it. And then you start to do cost control, cost monitoring. Your cost knowledge, the cost management knowledge, has to begin way before. It has to be as early as conceptualization. It has to be as early as idea, you see. So usually the client at every stage, they will be concerned about the budget. You see, we do not want to change the budget too much as we move along to the budget. As the detail comes in more and more, of course, the budget will get more and more accurate, with better accuracy, with better calculations and all that. But it will come as early as conceptualization, because in the conceptualization stage, you have ways of defining your project budget, and that has to be given to the client. And this is usually, comparing whether the project will be a yes or no. By doing that kind of study, that will be, coming up with that conceptual budget, it usually means that, are we really going to go ahead with this particular project, or with this particular idea at all? So if it's a yes, okay, then designer will move on to preliminary studies, to more details in the creation of the project scope, the components of the project. So so let's say it's a bridge. So we will say, how much does a bridge cost? It's going to be 60 houses. How much will the 60 houses cost? So at a very preliminary stage, there's very preliminary way of looking at cost as well, a very conceptual way of looking at cost. And then we make a comparison, and you feel like, okay, this is the cost that is involved, and how much money am I going to be, getting my revenue back, and then if I can make money from it, okay, I think it's a good idea. Or this project actually fulfills the other benefit that doesn't come in dollars and cents, and therefore, it could be infrastructure project that is serving the people, bringing water to the rural area, building roads, or to have better transportation network systems for the country and all that. That may not be measured by dollars and cents, but it will be measured by benefits as well. So so at the beginning stage, your benefit needs to overcome your cost, and cost is definitely one item that is dealing with capital that is needed for your project. So you need to be able to come up with that, at least some idea to the client that how much the project will cost, you see, for them to decide whether they can actually proceed, or to see the robustness of the project, whether it may work, the benefit that it will bring will be way more than the construction cost or the other costs involved in the project, and therefore it is a yes. And then you go and design the different components, subcomponents, and all that. And then from there, we will also do feasibility studies, and feasibility studies, whether in the feasibility studies is more dealing with more things like technical and all that, but feasibility studies also will deal with the economics aspects of things, and also the financial aspects of things as well. So financial aspect is like, is the project viable? So if you don't have a very solid calculation, a good way of calculating, the different stages of the cost thing work, then it will be, it will be very, how do I put it? At different stages, if you don't have certain level of accuracy, it's going to affect decision making on the stakeholder side, you see, on the client side, on the people who want to embark onto the project. So it's just like during the robustness test, if my cost is not to that certain accuracy, I may decide not to do the project, you see, and then put it a stop. And then at preliminary design, whereby you're looking at the components, subcomponents, doing the feasibilities, and designing the options for the project, and also designing the components, options, and all that. This, if you don't have a very good way of estimating as accurately as possible the cost involved, then some of the option that is chosen or certain components that are chosen may not be as value as possible. It's not good value at all. And that again will affect later on other aspects of the project, like the quality, like the workmanship, like the material. It will also affect maintenance in the long run. It will also affect operation in the long run. So your project end up may be high maintenance, not so good in terms of value. It's because in the first place, you do not treat the early part of this costing procedures properly, you see. And in the industry, a lot of the practice actually is like this. They will, after we've done some sort of like preliminary design, again, we will throw it to the QS to do the costing work. And the QS generally, they are just going to compare similar projects and take data from similar projects and do some sort of tinkering work to their old BQ or to another BQ and change the quantity a little bit, and then from there come up with a final sum of construction cost. And that is QS's practice. I mean, like, I know that very well because we have spoken to many QS, and if you ask any QS, that is how they would practice, you see. So why do people practice like that? Why is it like not serious? Because at the earlier stages of the project, a lot of things are still subjected to changes, you see. So many professionals, they don't want to waste so much time on sitting down and running through a very rigorous calculation process just to get the costing. And in that sense, it is fair enough. I mean, like, if I am not even sure if I'm going to be given the project, surely I wouldn't be spending so much time on the project. I mean, coming up with the work breakdown, and then doing the resources planning and all that, doing some of the serious calculation work just to come up with the cost. I mean, I would do that. So those of you working for JKR, for government department, I'm pretty sure you know about this, because at the earlier stages of the project, it's really just asking, just to get an idea. It's not a firm idea about how much things cost. It is so for you to be able to commit into the project, or for you to select your options, or for you to select the components options and all that. So components option, we will do that more in value engineering. But if we talk about just options with options comparison, like the economic studies, we do need to have some form of capital construction, the capital cost of the project, which is the construction cost of the project. So value is very important, you see, because if you don't get that value right, and if you don't apply the right technique to get those value right, as accurate as possible, then a lot of decision making towards the end or in the middle part will be actually starting to be wrong already, or going off wire already. Okay, so this is something that I need you all to seriously remember, because a lot of time when we talk about costing work, our mentality is to sit down and do a very detailed costing work, and anything that is not confirmed yet, we do not want to do a detailed work. We do not want to sit down and spend more time on it and all that. And that is not that is not wrong in terms of commercially, in terms of business, in terms of running firm, but it is not right in terms of engineering, you see. And then, so how do we find a balance? So the balance is there's many different type of techniques that is available out there for you to be able to adopt, to maybe quickly come up with the cost, as accurately come up with the cost at different stages of the project, so that you don't have to spend so much time, but yet you are taking it seriously, thinking about certain possibilities or picking up certain important points for you to include in that particular stage punya costing calculation. Okay, so I hope that is something that you are aware of, and this is basically what this section is all about. It's about why costing is very important at different stages of the costing, and what does costing activity involve cost planning, definition, cost analysis, cost controlling and monitoring. Okay, and yes, and Then the second bit here, we are also looking at two particular things here that we are looking at. Costing is not only about coming up with the budget, but there is two distinctive area. One is the pre-commitment, one is the post-commitment stage of the project. Okay, and what do we mean by pre-commitment stage for the project? Okay, so if you want to really look at your whole cost planning, so your strategic cost planning, one of the beginning part is to really to actually look into the pre-commitment stage of the project. That is whereby you need to look at the conceptual phase, the definition phase, the idea schemes. This is something that I've just spoken about just now, to be clear about what is needed, and then to have some form of cost expectation. So at this particular stage is pre-commitment stage, which is what we mean by, if you have to give a very specific line that is being drawn here, it definitely would be before tendering. Okay, it would be before procurement. It generally would be along conceptual all the way to feasibility study. You need to have a cost, you need to have a field cost definition. So normally at the very beginning, you will do the conceptualization, you will have a very brief, very quick, it could be historical data, it could be analogy estimates, that sort of estimates to do the job. And then as you move on, whereby you are going to compare options with options, so you must have some form of components available to your project already. And then that is something that you can use something like parametric studies as well. Yeah, so in parametric studies, we will compare few parameters. For example, if it's a 2-lane, 4-lane road, or is it, so the lanes will be the parameters, and then you may have another 2 or 3 parameters to actually work out on the costing for that particular option versus options kind of studies. Okay, and then after that, when you're looking at feasibility studies, you're also looking at technical, like coming up with some form of details, not a lot of details yet. So these preliminary studies may make you want to think about another aspect besides the costing aspects, is because now you have a lot more detail already in the preliminary study. So you may want to come up, you may need to do an all up. You can actually use the all up rate method to actually be a bit more accurate, because in the preliminary studies, you may have some drawings already, you may have some dimensions already, and from that dimensions, you can calculate your all up, all up rate kind of thing. I'll explain this sort of techniques a little bit more later on in the class, so you get a better idea. But you see, at the different stages of the project, your using of your costing techniques, your using of your the result from your costing is a different it has different weightage, it has different importance, it has different usage in that way. Okay, now you understand what I'm trying to get to you here is like I'm trying to compare stages of the project, especially pre-commitment stage, and after feasibility studies, whereby you already confirm on, this particular option is the very robust options, we're going to pick this particular options before you move on to the final design. When you move on to the final design, basically there is some form of commitment here from the client already. So the client cannot be ambiguously confirming on something. So this is very strictly on project funding. When you talk to a client and want them to fund your project for you, okay, or like government agency, they will approach the ministry, they will approach the federal government, and all that. For state government, or like the let's say for developers, private agencies, semi-linked government, they will need to look at the company's cash flow and, you know, where they're going to get the money to build, you see. So that decision, you know, after the feasibility studies where you are actually making a decision to confirm on the project, one of the very important elements here is where the project funding is going to come from. Do you have the project funding? Okay. So before we went into that, I also want to mention to you the idea of you see, this is pre-commitment stage. So you're formulating it. So the other thing that I want you all to really think about is the option of whether you may, you know, up to that stage, do you want to lease or buy decision? So that will be a very important thing for your organization to think about, you see. Would you, let's say you're supposed to build your headquarter office, this is the project, and would you rather just rent like 10 shops to do that? Or would you rather build your own, which is considered as a buy decision? Or would you want to lease, you see? So leasing means rental. I mean, like interchangeably, the word lease and rental, they're always interchangeably using together. But, okay, rental are usually for residential properties, whereby leasing is usually for commercial property or anything to do with machinery and buildings or land or properties that are used for commercial reasons. So we usually use the word leased rather than rent. Yeah. Rental is usually, yeah, like machinery, small things, equipment, you can talk about rental. So it is used interchangeably, but rental, normally we would like to use it for maybe like more residential building, like apartment, condominium houses, and all that. Okay, so there's a bit of difference here between lease and rental. And lease and rental also, there's some very minor kind of differences. Like I say, rental may not so formal, not so strict, even though you have a rental agreement. But when we come to leasing, normally the contracting terms and all that, it will be a lot more careful in drafting those terms. And then the signing of the lease will usually be quite long. It will be a lot longer than rental. Rental can go for 6 months rental. You can go for 3 months rental. You can go for 12 months rental. But leasing rental, leasing contract usually have to be at least about a year and above. Okay. And of course, leasing is executed in a more formal way, and rental is a more like something that you and I can talk, you know, and they say, oh, you want to rent this? I can rent it to you, you know, kind of thing. It can be between the two parties quite, you know, very informally, whereby leasing has to be proper contracting procedures that needs to be carried out. Maybe, you know, all the documents may need to be vetted by lawyers and all that to be a bit more safe in that way, because the amount of money or property that you're dealing with could be a lot more than just rental. Rental could be a few hundred to a few thousand, but leasing, you can talk about tens of thousands, you know, per month, or, you know, like a few hundred thousands per month is also possible, you see. So yeah, so there's a difference between lease and buying decision. So that, to repeat, you know, so where we're going is when we're looking at, you see, at the pre-commitment stage, we're looking at all this pre-commitment stage at the moment from conceptual, okay, from conceptual studies, whereby you're, you know, you need to come up with some form of costing on the construction cost, so that you know, there is some form of decision making. There may be a yes or no decision making from the stakeholders, and then moving on to maybe the preliminary stages of the studies, whereby you are going to compare, doing some feasibility studies and also financial studies as well, or economic studies here, because you're going to be comparing options with options, possibilities of which option is better. So you're actually confirming on the components, the major components of the project already that needs to be, you know, created so that for you to do that comparison. And in-depth comparison studies, whether you're doing economic studies or whether you're doing a buy or lease decision, you will need to know the money involved, the costing involved, how much does it cost to build, how much does it cost to rent instead or to lease instead. Yeah, so this sort of things, this sort of stages is quite common. So it's actually very much integrated with your scope management. So at that stage of scope management, whereby you are actually looking at whereby you're actually looking at the components of the project, after you have done your yes or no test, sometimes it's no need to yes or no, it's already a yes. So then from there, you're going to create some form of like components. And then from there, you need to do some robustness test, some sort of like economics study on the cost and benefit and all that. This particular time, it will involve a lot of costing, okay, because the decision of at that point in time of which options that you're going to pick and which option is going to give a better benefit, which option will going to cost more, all this decision, okay, usually, if you want to put it very, very crudely, it's all about money, isn't it? Yeah, it's all about money. Whether we say that, oh yeah, even though we say that, oh, this is the landmark of Malaysia, this is something good for the people, etc., etc., etc. But in the end, any construction project that you are planning to give your full attention and embark onto that particular project needs money. Okay, no money, no talk. So if we don't get the money bit clear, there's going to be a lot of decision making that will not be good, you see. For example, lease and buy decision. So I know this is my option, and then I've selected these options. So should I lease it or buy? Like let's say just now the office. Okay, should I lease it or buy? So it all depends on what. There's a lot of implication here because leasing does not require a huge capital outlay. It doesn't require you to go and construct and come up with a few $1 million. Okay, to do it, right? But leasing, I mean, but if you actually want to construct and purchase it, purchase means, like usually when we say buy, it means that we're going to embark onto a project, full plus construction project. That is our buying, the term's buying here. Okay, so when we're going to buy, we have a lot of capital outlay, and this capital outlay is not good. Yeah, capital outlay is basically, your how do I put it? It's a project. It's a project that will give. It will move the economy. It will give you what you need. You own the project. So basically, when you own something, you can do whatever you want with it. You can build it and then decide to sell it later, correct or not? You don't have to, you can change a lot of things, okay? So when you want to build something, yeah, you don't have you do have a lot of big capital outlay, but you have a lot of decision. I mean, you can be a lot more flexible. You can say, I want to change now from 2 stories to 3 stories. I don't want anymore. I want to build an apartment later. So there is a lot of room for flexibility, which if you go for a leasing option, it is what it is. If this is what is presented to you, it is 5 stories, you're going to rent it. 5 floors, all 5 floors, you're going to rent it. That's it. This is there's no flexibility to it. It looks like this. You have to work around it. But if you're doing a construction one, then you can ask your architect to design differently. Your engineers can design differently. So it's a lot more flexible. It's a lot more fit to your own purpose. Okay. So of course, leasing is good because leasing is an expense. In terms of taxation, leasing is an expenses. Okay, it's not rather than a capital expenditure. Okay, but of course, if you're going to buy, there will be some tax advantage on depreciation, possible tax deductions and all that you can look at as well. So you can deduct depreciation off from the balance sheet. That is another good thing about going on to construct everything by itself. So leasing, of course, is more predictable. Everything is there already. And then, of course, yeah. But of course, leasing has greater flexibility when it comes to like, you don't like this building anymore. I buy I change to a new place. You see, so I don't like this property anymore. I change. So that is the good thing about leasing. So of course, leasing maintenance responsibilities normally is pretty much still with the owner of the project, not so much on owner of the property, not so much on the person renting from it, or the leasing company. Okay, so yeah, so these are some of the advantages, disadvantages about purchasing and buying and all that. But a lot of this is actually based on whether you have the money or not. If your capital outlay, the one that you calculate, up all the way up to your study, the one you calculate, the capital outlay, is that within the range that is acceptable? Okay, you all can see my screen now. Just double check with you. You all can see my screen. I'm on the project funding page. Yeah. Don't later on still must say in your page is must say the QR code. And here I am talking all the way. Okay. Yeah. So idea of capital outlay is the cost planning. This is all about strategic planning, strategic planning for your organization when it's embarking onto project or construction project, engineering project. So when you confirm on the option, okay, you confirm on the options, doing some cost benefit. That cost benefit and all this is more onto economic studies. And then of course we also have those effectiveness analysis, whereby we are not really looking at the money bit, but we're looking at the benefit bit. But the cost and benefit in terms of non-monetary sense and all that. But you have to understand, whatever project that you are building, whether the cost and benefit comes in monetary terms or non-monetary terms, there will always be a monetary aspect involved in the beginning, and which is the construction cost, which is the capital outlays, which is dealing with the land cost, the construction cost, the cost to come up with that project. Whatever benefit that you will bring later, the cost that you will bring later, that one can be in non-dollars and cents. But in the beginning, we have that word capital outlay or capital outflow, or the capital I don't want to use the word contribution because it's very confusing, but the capital expenditure for the project, it will always be in dollars and cents. So if you don't have that money and there's no other sources of getting that money, then leasing may be a very good option. Okay, and a lot of projects do have that as well. So they actually get somebody to build and then they lease it back to the owner. Now these are all these concessional kind of contract, build, own, operate, transfer. These are also playing with leasing. Okay, and so you can embark onto that sort of method to get your project, to get the procurement of your project done. You see, so this capital expenditure, capital outlay, capital outflow is what engineers need to tell your client, correct or not? Yeah. So the client will ask you how much it's going to cost me. Yeah, you may not be in the decision-making team on the client side, but as an engineer who is doing the design or be part of the team in planning for the project, you need to give that number, that figure to the client. And on the client side, you also have engineers, you also have architects, you have professional QSs, and on the team, if they have it, they will need to make decision whether with this sort of capital outlay that they are going to be committing to, will it be possible for them at all, you see? So if it's not possible, then leasing may be an option. That means buying, or what we call constructing, is out of the picture. Okay, so if let's say they seriously want to consider about um buying or constructing, then it's about the funding. So this is what we call project finance. This is the financial viability studies bit that is dealing with more on the finance lah normally lah. But then dealing with finance, I mean, there is not such a clear line like, oh, this one I have to go and talk to my CFO. The CFO in charge, I don't need to know anything, It's not like that. It's basically the merging of, it's the integration of, engineering and finances and all that. So one of the most common way of raising the funding is the company themselves. Do they have that kind of cash flow? That is the basic question, correct now? Okay, so if my firm last year I've made a few millions, I have got some profits retained, okay, that is retained profits. I want to put these profits into this coming up new projects, and this project I need to fund it over the next 3 years for the construction. Before that we can sell it and all that. So these are equity, like coming from the own company, okay, retaining, I mean, like things that is from the original company, like the shares from the own company that is translated into dollars and cents. These are all money that comes from your own company in your own cash flow. Okay. But of course, nowadays people don't really take their own money and go and invest. So what they could do is, they may raise from shareholder funding. So they may, like let's say listed company, they may want to, issue more shares to raise funds from the public. And then of course, if it's a non-public listed, you can actually ask the shareholder to actually come up with more money. And then whatever money that they want to come up with may actually make a difference in their shares in the company. So let's say one guy, because of this project, can come up with more, so the other one less. So there will be some form of arrangements on the shares that is coming up. So let's say if there's 4 shareholders, everybody owns 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%. And then now somebody actually pumped in a lot more money here. So the share maybe have a bit of movement as well. So somebody may own a few percent more, somebody may own a few percent less kind of thing. So it can be from shareholders, what we call shareholders equity. Okay. And obviously shareholders pump in more money is because they trust that company. They feel like there is potential in the project. There is a good study that shows us that this is the capital outlay and this is the feasibility studies and this is the money that we will make and this is the cost. These are the benefits. Everything is about data. It's about study. It's not about, look at my face, I'm a good person, trust me, give me your money kind of thing, It's not like that. Yeah. So it has to be from figures. It has to be from track records, you see. All shareholders talk about data. Yeah. All companies, even if you want to say this particular project, I want to find an external partner, another joint venture partner, you also need to have a good track record. And this good track record will come from your company's audited account for the past 5 years at least for you to find the right partner. Okay. Let's say if you're going to be partnering with another firm, people will look at you and say that, can you give me your 5 years profit and loss and accounting balance sheet and all that? I want to track. We will need to study this before we see whether we want to work with you. That is a question. It's not even whether we want to embark onto the project with you or not. It's whether we want to work with you. So then with that, yes, you are good, reliable. We think that your company is quite a reliable company. It's good reputation. Look at your profit and loss. It's not having so much of debts. Is actually like you have a lot of assets. A shareholders is very healthy. The fundings, everything, the equity is all there. The assets and the liability are balanced out and all this sort of stuff. So they will look and say, oh, this is a healthy company. Okay, so now they say that I want to work with you. So work with you, then they will look at the project. Then you need to furnish them with a lot of project data, like, technical studies, the location, the market surveys, the potential for the product that you are building, what's the market for it, and then the feasibilities, the option studies, and then whether it's a well thought through options, whether what is the capital outlay, how much money you need to pump in for them to pump in with you, etc., and how's the management of the project going to be like, and all that. So there's going to be a long range of data that needs to be presented to your potential partners or to the potential people who will fund the project. You know, even if you apply for a grant, okay, so from the government or apply for a loan from the bank, you know, these are all what we call borrowings. So these borrowings, they will also need to look at a lot of this project data, you know, the studies that is being done. The one item that they will definitely look at again and again, asking you questions again and again is the capital outlay, capital expenditures. How much are you going to spend? Where are you going to spend it? What are you going to be spending it on? You see, and I mean, like if you say you're going to spend it on buying 10 Mercedes for all your shareholders, I don't think you're going to get any funding for, you know, for it, basically. So it's like, where is the money going to go to? You see, so important factors that these important documents that may not be fully prepared by engineers, but definitely capital expenditure part will be prepared by the technical, and the capital expenditure part will be definitely prepared by engineers with their BQs and all that kind of stuff. I won't say completely engineers. Of course, with, you know, it's a really huge project, then we'll have architects involved, QSs involved as well, and the, you know, the finance bit, like the balance sheet, the cash flow, everything, that one, the bank's accounts, you know, an audited report, and all these things will come from the CFOs. So normally it's a whole team of people working on it, you see. Yeah, so these are typical way of how we are looking at the pre-commitment stage of the project. So here are some very technical terms that you will see, like how equity financing. So raise fund by selling your ownership, okay, of shares. Okay, and then equity financing can also come from private investor, capital venture firms, okay, through IPO. Okay, this is through shares, you know, issuing more shares onto the market for people to buy. Okay, this is definitely for public listed company. So venture capital firms, private investors, this can be angel investors, it can be just trust funds investing, can be investors who is looking at investing into your projects, okay? And debt financing means that you borrow money from financial institution, government financing, okay? Then you can also have a strategic partnership, like what I say just now, joint venture collaborations, you know, these sort of things will definitely be these sort of things are definitely possible if the project sums is very big, especially if you're dealing with very big development projects. You know, normally you get two companies coming together. You know, one may come up with the land, the other one may come up with the capital, or they can, you know, buy land and share the capital and all that. Yeah, so different modes, different way of working. You know, it's very individual to the different firms, but in the end, you're trying to put together all the good things in the different firms together to give you the most benefits. Grants, normally you don't pay. So grant definitely will be based on certain projects. I mean, certain level kind of things that is granted. I mean, you see that a lot in terms of grants, say, you know, environmental related, social related, sometimes agriculture as well, and also there may be government grants to do village, you know, like sort of like a rural project as well. Grants is not repair back, okay, but you must produce something that is beneficial for the government, beneficial for the NGOs, or beneficial for the certain populations of people, let's say the rural populations and all that. I think China especially, I think they do give a lot of grants away to people who can come up with specific techniques, and you know, come up with specific product or specific ways of bringing in improving on the rural industries. Like for example, some rural industry they may be involving, because the land is very dry, you know, you cannot do much things, so you know, how to bring in water and then in the end create some form of job opportunities for agriculture or to produce certain products that can be sold in different parts of the world and all that. So yeah, it's about bringing out rural community and all that. So there may be a lot of grants for this sort of things as well. I mean, depends on the country lah, that is different from government financing. Government financing is like you have to pay back financing. Grants is you don't have to pay back, but there is a very specific something that you must show, in the end, to the government or to the people or to the population or to the funder of the grant. Okay. So yeah, so these are some of the technical terms that we need to work on. So yeah, so then pre-commitment stage. So these are the things that you need to watch out in pre-commitment stage. Then following that, we are also going into the more, so the idea here is to come up with the capital outlay. What is the capital expenditure? What are you going to spend on, and what is when you complete the project, how much money you're going to spend? So until now, we are talking about that, okay? So to come up with that, you need to come up with that. So the main purpose of cost management usually is that capital outlay, capital expenditure. Whether that capital expenditure you're looking at it at the very early stage, conceptual stage, or the middle, or the preliminary stage, or the development stage of the project, or the design stage of the project, or the or pre-commitment as in pre-award stage of the project, or during the construction of the project. It has to be everything revolves around that. It's just that at different stages of it, different stages of the project, your technique of coming up with that capital expenditure of that construction cost is different, okay? And the accuracy is different, and the level of complexity is different. The techniques are different, the formulas are different as well, you see. So, but it has its own purpose, it has its own standing, because at different stages of the project, the usage of the capital outlay and the usage of the different capital expenditures are actually a little bit different. So commitment stage is usually decision making. Okay. So once you come to that decision making part first, that is that okay, now the client said that I have money, my cash flow is good, I'm going to invest in this project, through joint venture or through capital, through borrowings or through raising of your share equity in your funding from your company. Can be any route to get the money, or go to the upper government, the federal government will come down with some money for it. That is government financing. Okay, so different ways up until this point, commitment. Okay, so how to commit? Usually commitment comes, this is I would say it's a stage, but of course we always say pre and post commitment. Okay, so pre-commitment stage we understand already. So during the commitment stage, how do you commit? Usually there will be a process, okay, for you to commit. So that bit here, we usually will go through what we call quotation stage to get your, this is procurement already, okay? Procurement is to find the right people to do the work for you, to come up with the project. In the end, you have already selected purchase, okay? In the end, you selected purchase. And from this decision, you're going to construct. So now we are essentially moving into the procurement stage. Okay, so who are you going to get as a contractor? That will make a lot of difference, because the quotation from the contractors or the tender from the contractors will be the commitment that everybody will be embarking onto. Okay, you understand what I'm trying to say or not? Am I going a bit too fast, or are you guys totally lost, or are you guys all sleeping in a nice Sunday afternoon? Yeah? How's everybody? Good? Okay. Are you still alive? Yeah? You are, huh? Okay, good. So does it make sense to you? Okay. What I'm talking about here? Yeah? So yeah, so basically this stage here will require very detailed costing calculation, like very detailed calculation. It involves creating the BQs, so that when the tenderer comes in, we are going to compare apple with apple. It's not going to be like, why do we need a BQ? BQ is there because we do not want the contractor to interpret the drawings by themselves, the documents by themselves, and then create their own perspective on the costing. Okay, we do not want them to have their own impression on the project. Then they come up with their own way of calculation and then present to you how they calculate it. And then contractor B will do the same thing, contractor C will do the same thing, contractor D will do. Imagine you've got 20 contractors coming to do tendering, and then they are all going to send in their own format. Okay, so how on earth are you going to measure, like, whether this is a better one, this is not so good, this is the one that they forgot to calculate this? You can't, it's just going to be a nightmare. So that's why we have BQ. BQ is the client is telling you that this is my tender document, this is the drawings, this is the specifications, this is the contract documents that you're going to sign on, this is the type of contract that we're going to embark onto it. This is the BQ where you need to fill your cost for us. Okay? Then everybody is filling on the same piece of paper. It's just like exam, you all are getting the same topic. Okay? Same format, same answer sheet. So I'm not going to give, one person like this, another 3 person like that, and then the other third person, like 4, 6, 7 person, something else, you see? So then it's going to create a lot of issues and confusion. On me as a marker, I do not know which is the better student. Oh, so I need to have a standard format here. And standard format is BQ. So then, how to come up with that BQ, how to come up with all this costing work. Contractor side needs to work on it. They must have a good costing strategy to cost the project. Okay, and then the client side also, once you select the contractor to do the job for you, you're basically saying to him, saying to everybody that this guy at this price, we're going to sign a contract with him. He's going to do the job for us. So therefore, that is a commitment. You understand? Okay. So to this stage of doing the procurement stage, this is the journey to the commitment already. Before that is pre-commitment. This is like you're dating one another lah, belum engaged lagi lah. So when you're doing an engagement already, you're pretty much not kahwin yet, but then more or less you are there already. So I would say that procurement is almost like an engagement. So betul-betul kahwin is the part that you are going to commit. You sign on the piece of paper, the letter, the contract signed on that line, on those dotted lines is signed already. That is commitment. Faham tak? Okay, so if you can imagine it like that, it's something like that. Okay, so as a contractor, in that engagement stage, I still can run away. I still can pull out. I still can look at the document and say, "Oh my God, this is not for me. You see, this is wrong." So I still can go off. See, there's nothing wrong with that. I go and buy a tender, I bring it back, I read the tender document, and I say, "Oh, so many things to do." And then before I submit a tender, I ask the office, the guy, the client office, how many people tender this time? Oh, 20. Aduh, so much. Then I don't want to go and, crowd around. So you don't have to do it, you see. So, but when you are starting to do the pricing, you need to really think about the strategies, you see. So a few things that you need to consider here. These are the things that we want you to consider, basically, before you can, these are the things that we are hoping that they're all cost estimators, whichever position that you are in, whether you're from the client, whether you're from the consultant, whether you're from the client side, the strategizing makes a lot of difference. I'll explain that. Who you pick as the contractor, who you pick as the consultant, what type of procurement method that you pick and what type of contract type that you pick and all that, it will make a bit of a difference to the committed price later. So it's just like, yes, we all know that we want to build something, build a bridge, or build 100 houses to sell. But the way to it is a lot of way. Okay. There is many consultants, there's many different architects out there, so whoever that you pick as the architect, as the designer, whether they are conventional, whether they are more new age, whether they're more creative, will make a lot of difference in your final product and the cost capital expenditure. And of course, it may make a lot of difference in terms of the selling price as well. So in terms of the profit margin, in the end, it may have a lot of difference as well if you pick there's no such thing as pick the right person. It's just the right person for your company, for your purpose. So if that particular designer fits your intention, so if you do I recently did a project for a client, my concept is to save money. If I can save more money by having a little bit less steel by having a smaller column smaller beams here small there a bit, the client save a lot of money in terms of the concrete and steel cost, correct? I mean, that is my perspective, you see. So I go into it with that kind of mentality. But then the feedback from the client is, you'll be surprised. The client went like, thing still a bit less, he's not comfortable because it doesn't look very big, you see. So like you get clients who are actually, they like things to be robust, you see. So why not? And I said, saving money is always harder. So if you want to be bigger, better, like more material use, even better, I'm more happy. So yeah, we have to do some changes for them. So in the end, you see, different kind of consultant will probably give you different kind of options. Okay, so some is different. Some is like the client wants to save money, the consultant wants to do big, fat, like more steel better, thicker better, everything thicker better. So you will see that this sort of strategy, it has to sort of come together between the two parties as well. And what I'm trying to say here is picking a designer, picking a group of designers who actually can service the client in certain ways that is beneficial to that client is actually cost savings. Okay, it's one of the cost savings impact. Some consultants, they are a bit more more environmentally aware, they are more creative, or they are a bit more, a lot of idea based, so they can come up with many different things. So it's a matter of whether you want to explore or not explore in that sense. So yeah, the consultant is actually one factor within your cost strategy. Select that very carefully. So of course, contractors, besides pricing, of course, the cheaper, we like cheaper, like cheaper better, so when you select contractor, usually you base on their pricing, that's number one. But of course, their delivery, their experience, their level of manpower, all these things make a lot of difference in terms of the speed of the project, in terms of the quality of the project, the specialization. If you have a contractor who has never done any bridge job before, or have never done any pipeline job before, and they have got a license, and they quote you really cheap, but in the end they may not deliver, they may not perform, and then you end up abandoning the project, wasting time and all that. That kind of money, if you accumulate, it may be better to get a more experienced contractor who is actually a little bit more expensive because he has already thought of more possibilities of more risk involved, that he's already thought of this risk strategies that he think that will happen and all that. So you never know. So we can't compare exactly pricing just by itself. So yeah, selection of contractor is definitely one way of busting your budget, or like we call it cost strategy. Like it can actually help you in terms of budget reduction. It can help you in terms of saving money, there's many aspects to the project. So we call it cost strategy. So contractor, consultant, picking the right one is definitely one element here. And then also the type of procurement method. Some procurement method like design and build may end up being a bit more expensive. Traditional way may be a little bit cheaper. We really don't know. It depends, so. And then what type of contract, whether it's a fixed price lump sum contract, whether it's a cost plus contract, whether it's a BQ contract, it will make a bit of difference in the final cost expenditure for the project. So these sort of elements, okay, so yeah. So this is something that we need to think about before you actually commit into the budget, okay? So, and to come up with the budget, of course, you need to understand resources for house. I think Dr. Lee went through with you the resources, so I wouldn't go through resources with you again. So you've got the machineries, the manpower, the expertise, the material, and then the subcontractors, any other subspecialties you need to put into the project is also very important. And then the project management team, the people who's going to manage the project, the overheads, all these resources that needs to go into the process in order for you to complete the project is very essential. Towards the is a very essential part of a cost strategy. Okay. Then, of course, the constraint, we need to watch out for a lot of things. Site is definitely a constraint. A lot of construction costs is because of busting the budget, not fulfilling the cost. It's because of the latent condition. Latent conditions means that something that you really cannot foresee. So you did not actually check the site conditions properly. And when the project is ongoing, end up with a lot of additional costs involved. So yeah, checking on the site condition, doing site surveys, doing bore logs, doing catchment studies, and all these are actually essential. Weather studies, it's very important for drainage work, and yeah, like anything to do with water and drainage and all that. It's very essential to study the sources, the catchments, and all that. Okay, and then of course that will have impact on the cost later on. Bigger requirement, geographical location, yeah. Doing a project in Kuching and doing a project in Bakalarang or in, I don't know, where else, Belaga or something like that, it's a very different thing because of logistic costs, geographical locations. Doing pipeline next to a river or across a river compared to just on the road, it's a very, very different story. Okay, so depending on the project itself, the cost will be different. So why am I pointing out this? Because a lot of times what we do with capital expenditure, capital outlay, or what we call construction costs is we like to take construction costs from previous project and we do not take previous projects that are absolutely quite similar to whatever that we are embarking onto. So so that makes you have a very off-wire, off-rail historical data. So whatever you pick, like you cannot take Kuching punya project cost and apply that to Bintulu or Miri or Sibu, even. And we will generally want to go for Sibu to Sibu, area versus area by itself, rather than completely different geographical location, because you built one before here, then therefore you take it, and that's what QSs do. They will take from historical data and pump in the new numbers, and then the costing, they do not change that much, and then they just dump it in the rate, and then they'll do the calculation, and that is why it is not accurate. So you need to look at that as well. And of course, there is many areas with different authority, like in Kuching alone, there is MPP, there is CBKU, there is Samarahan councils, there is MBKS. Even Kuching alone, there's about 4 different councils. And you have KWB, you have SWB, you've got Laku, Miri, Bintulu, you've also got, JVAP, and in some places are, JKR. So, even water alone, you've got different authority. There are different compliance costs as well. There's different permit costs. There's different insurance requirements from different different area, and working in Kuala Lumpur, West Malaysia is very different from working in Sarawak. Sarawak very different from Sabah. Okay, and of course, regionally, labor law and all that is similar, lah, huh? But of course, minimum wages and all that is applicable. Yeah, and then so yeah, you've got a lot of different rules, regulations, that is involving. Yeah, and then other authorities. This is very important because some areas, if you involve other authorities, there may be costs involved. Some, let's say you're building something that you may involve SEB, and SEB, compared to, some areas involve, JKR, some area involve councils, then their requirement is different, and then their fees, the impact fees and the debt they charge is different as well. There's also transportation, sometimes some agency like JPJ, and JPJ, the transport agencies may have something to say as well, because or the police, then there may be different charges involved depending on the type of project that you're involving in. So these are all talking about other authorities and the possibilities of costing that will come up because of other authorities that you didn't think about. So when you look into a project at the very beginning part, under the feasibility studies, these are the things that you really should think about before you move on and actually do a costing calculations or doing some scheduling work. This actually involves, this one is exactly the same thing that you think about when you talk about time and schedules as well, because when you involve time and schedules, if you have authority requirement, sometimes it's like you've got them not giving you the way leave, you cannot proceed with the work. So a lot of time is actually involved in trying to get permits and all that, and then end up with project delays. So these are, I honestly think that at the beginning stage, these are the kind of environmental study, the project environment studies that will also be looking into, these sort of things before you can actually embark onto project management at all. You see, you need to understand your project. So then third-party obstructions will also affect cost and time as well, because you may have people from the kampong or all that not allowing you to go across their land or cut down their banana trees, or cut down their kelapa sawit, that sort of things. And then you may have, native land owners, neighboring properties owners that is going to make complaints and call the police and, put a stop to your job and all that. And then there may be existing structures like underneath, or properties that you're not sure whether it is, that you don't even know who is the owner. It's always been there. So should you go and take it off or not take it off? Like, take it off, then later on somebody come after you with their parang or sue you with give you a lawyer letter saying that you illegally trespass their property. So yeah, sometimes when you have that, like when you try to look for the owner, you cannot find them because the land itself, has been empty. The children are all overseas, and when you put it in the newspaper asking who is the owner for this particular house, structure, or whatever, nobody say anything, So it can create a huge issues as well. So we call that third-party obstructions, and pipelines or gas lines, pipelines, manhole that is used for utilities. Sometimes it's inactive already, so do you need to take it off or not take it off? So it's very difficult to tell. So these are things that you can also affect the cost of the project, because you may have to spend a lot of time and a lot of money trying to dismantle it as well. Okay, not only dismantle it, to ask for permission to dismantle can be an issue as well. Okay, I'm sure some of you have faced this before. So yeah, so these are things that you need to think about. Okay, these are the things that you need to think about: project resources, whether you have the resources, the constraints, and the designers. Okay, consultant, the procurement, and the contract selection type. It warrants careful consideration before you select the contract type. Different contract type will actually bring in slight differences in the prices as well. And what we mean by slight differences is like, 1% difference, 1% with 1 billion and 1% with 100 million. That's a lot of money, okay? even that is 1% or 0.5%. It may look like a very, very small percentage, but you cannot afford to, have anything. It's a lot of money, involved towards the end, which is the capital expenditure. We can do a lot with 0.5% of 1 billion or 100 million, you see. Yeah, or I think even 10 million, yeah. So yeah, contractor selections, of course, there are many factors involved, their ability, their workmanship, their workers, the efficiency, how much workers they own, or they own subcontractor out, subcontracting out. That's a very dangerous kind of situation. Okay, you don't want that. Okay, so there is a lot of impact here on the final costing outlay. So it's pretty much something that we want to study, of course, at the very beginning when you are doing your environmental scan, when you're doing your EIA, or when you're doing your project issue analysis, and then doing your big chart, that 3 layers chart that we're talking about just now, last few weeks. Now, these are the things that you need to think about already at that stages, those stages, so that when you come to costing bit, you're already aware that these are the things that may actually affect the final capital expenditure. Whether you're going to make extra 1 or 2 million or few 100,000 or not, sometimes it's just a little bit of differences that you make in terms of your strategy, in terms of whether you're aware of the constraints, or whether you pick the right contractor, or pick the right designer, or use the right procurement strategy. So that it will make a lot of difference. It may look like a very 0 or 1% kind of differences, but that, like I said, with the project sum is big, 1 or 2% is a lot. It's like it may actually tell you that, in the end you make extra millions from it. Okay. Right. Any questions so far? You guys need a short break or something? No, if no, I'll just proceed now.
Yeah, proceed, Doctor.
Good. Off. Okay, it's part 2 already. There we go. So after you've identified all these things, I think we are going on to that costing planning. That the first part of the note is more like the strategizing, planning for your cost, thinking about different aspects of costing. Okay, now we are moving into the actual costing, which I think a lot of you are very familiar with this, because this is what I've spoken about many times in undergraduate studies in my classes. But some of you come from different universities, so you may not have gotten this previously. So first you need to know your WBS, definitely your work breakdown structure. Without that, you cannot do anything really. Or it may be as simple as different components as well. Different components, then you do studies for different components. The different components of the costing for different components. So again, how deep is your work breakdown? How complete is your work breakdown will also make a lot of difference to the type of estimates that you will use. And of course, the different work breakdown structure already is the very, very end. Okay, so we're talking about the early stages, as in the product breakdown, and the product subcomponents. These sort of things, if it's more detailed, the better it is. Then the detail, of course, will be more and more until work breakdown structure. So the P product breakdown structure, PBS, and also the WBS, it will be related to different stages of the project, and then that will be related to different kind of estimates. Okay, so in the beginning, whereby it's just a yes or no, I'm going to build a bridge that is going to be estimated at least 4 lanes or 2 lanes over 2 km, something like that. Okay, that is your product basically. So this is a time that we will usually use something like a very simple expert opinion, just to ask for a look on feel kind of like data, because you don't have much data. So this, with that kind of thing, with that kind of few words, you ask somebody who is quite a experienced estimator or somebody who's done a job before, you can get an idea of how much it will cost. So normally these people will tell you that it's going to be about 1 km, you need to spend about, $1 million, for example. Okay. So that is a very subjective estimation. But when another guy may give you 1.2 million, another guy may give you 1.5 million, another guy may give you 0.8 million. So it's not really accurate anyway. So yeah, but it's to get some idea about the capital expenditure, okay, or the construction cost. Then after that, we will go into a more ballpark, as in a little bit more. You can also use this at the beginning if you have enough information. Here you may want to, here is fine if you do get during the conceptual part, these are the good. It's probably better than expert opinion. If you can do an order of magnitude or some form of a factor estimate, I think that one would be better compared to an expert opinion. Okay. What we will do here is generally you can use what we call an analogy estimates. Okay, analogy estimates is basically, you've got a range of different projects, and then you find one that is the most similar to yours, and then you do a direct projection onto the new one. So let's say I've got, mine was building 100 houses. There was another project that I built in Cebu that is 100 houses or close to 100 houses, or they are, I'm actually building like 90 houses over there. So now here I'm going to build 100 houses. So I can use analogy estimate. It can be a direct translation, like, like move forward direct translation kind of thing. Like what is shown in the graph here. It can be like that if you have the exact same thing, but normally you don't, you see. So what we will do with it is we will take the old project and come up with a unit rate for it. And then from the unit rate, we project it onto the new project quantity. Like let's say 90 houses, mine is 100 houses. So I will take, like, my previous project was actually 4.5 million, and my construction cost was 45 million, and I've got 90 houses. So one house is costing about $500,000. So then from there, I will project it onto my new project. So my project now will be about 15 million. So that will be how I will do the calculation on that, So yeah, so we call that analogy estimates, or we can also, use this as a factoring. Like you take whatever that we're doing just now, the quantity, and then you go by a 2/3 kind of factor. This is just to do a bit of adjustments to the, it's like a factor estimates. This is a formula, but obviously this project, like all the difference in terms of the difference is actually quite small, as in the parameters is not like a lot of difference, meaning that it cannot be, project A is built with IBS, and then project B is built with concrete, and then and then you have a lot of other kind of ground conditions differences and all that. Then this doesn't work. This formula doesn't work. But if it's like just quantity, like, yeah, both are the same, the location is quite similar and all that. So I'm just going to go by the quantity, and then maybe this 2/3 is more on the time that is required. Like let's say in the past, this project was actually 2 years ago, last year, within last 5 years, and now in 2024, or in 2025, I'm going to be building this project. So it's more or less to adjust that, not so much on lot of big differences in terms of, like, it's not good if the project is actually at a complete different locations, or the quantity is a lot, or the parameters cannot be so many differences if you want to use this as a formula. Otherwise, like I said, you could probably just go by units, go by the unit rate, which is something like this, like you do a projection, and then you go by order of magnitude, meaning that you take the old project factor. I mean, old project, let's say your old project C, like I said, 45 million, you're building 90 houses. So now you're building 100 houses. You cannot directly translate like this, but then you take the unit first, meaning that per house in my old project will be about 500,000, for example. And then after that, you do some factoring work, such as the location, such as the duration, such as the figure where the budget comes from. Like let's say project C was done 2018, okay? And this is the closest analogy that you can get for your project. Locality the same, the locality is actually between Surrey and Cebu, so there's a bit of difference, but not so much of a difference. So you do your own factoring first based on what we went through just now, the project constraints and all that. You do some of your own factoring first to factor up or factor down your old project analogy first, and then times it with your new project. Or you can take it, times it with your new project, and then factor up or factor down. It doesn't matter. Okay, it really doesn't make a huge lot of difference. You do it before or after. You can do it on the analogy, or you can do it on the final proposed cost as well. So this is what we call factor estimate, and this is especially good if you're going to use it for, say, conceptual studies. Okay, because conceptual studies, we actually do not expect you as an engineer as well, or professional even, to really be so good at it that you can come up with the perfect, accurate, like to 5% difference kind of number. I mean, like, we all know that at conceptual stage, our calculation should always be a bit higher, or maybe, it should be quite a lot higher normally, I would say, yeah. If you do a lot less, then it's a bit dangerous, because the client does not like to hope that actually it's a lot more. If we do a bit higher and then end up with a lot less, then I think that will make everybody very happy. See, so it's always better to factor things more than under factor it. So yeah, this is what we will be doing. I mean, this is what generally we can do for this sort of estimating work. So let's say if you guys are looking for developer scout, looking for client planning in your offices, you can take this sort of estimates and try to give an idea about costing, about the capital expenditure for the project. Then it's a good practice. I mean, it's a good practice to do your own factoring, or factor estimates, or analogy estimates. So you can either compare, okay? And I think QSs also, they have some other methods, especially for building work. Like, for example, they will look at not only the numbers, they will also look at the floor area as well. So floor area is definitely a better description than numbers. And because numbers could mean that numbers is the same, but then the floor area can be different, because some houses that is designed is actually bigger, some houses the design is actually smaller, and some it's not the same type again. So I think suggestion is also, if you go for building, you will be using floor area or enclosed area. Enclosed area means that you are looking at one space of enclosed. What is the enclosed area? So that will be the floor, the ceiling, the wall. What are all the enclosed things in the building? So you calculate the whole floor, the area that is enclosed, the wall, the building, the ceiling, the wall, the floor, the ceilings, these are the things that you will enclose it. So you count that based on that, and then you compare with the enclosed area for the new project. So yeah, very specifically, they will do that for building projects. But for civil projects, normally we will go by km, we will go by lanes, we will go by pipeline, also kilometers, numbers, Road, definitely we will go by per meter run. Usually we'll go by per km. If you want to be a bit more accurate, you normally will go by per meter run. Per meter run of road, per meter run of pipe, per meter run of drain, per meter run of sewage pipeline. Or sewage normally will be per meter, and also with numbers of manhole as well. So that will probably be two components that you need to look at. Yeah, so yeah, the comparison have to be that. So that one usually based on that quantity, you go and look for a similar project that is the most similar to yours in terms of that quantity, and then that project may be happening in other locations with other geographical constraints, authority, weather, yeah, and river, ocean, like kind of thing. Like all these things are actually the factors surrounding the project, whether you need to factor it up or factor it down. Yeah, and then also looking at other obstructions. The constraints that I was looking at, I was telling you just now, you can go through that and see whether you need to factor it up or factor it down before you compare it with the next, compare it with the new project. So you can factor the unit rate first and then times it with the new unit rates, with the new units for the new project, or you can factor it first and then times it, no, sorry, you can just times it first and then factor it with the total. Yeah. Like some students have done it before in such a way that they will factor it. They'll do the calculation first. They'll take it like as it is in the graph that I'm showing you, and then do the factoring with the final figure. That's what they will do. Yeah. If your project are quite similar, very, very similar with one another, this may be a good option. Okay, using this formula. Okay, and then after that, we also have, let's say in your preliminary studies, whereby you've already come up with some form of components, the different components to the project, you've already come up with that. Then we could actually try to use what we call parametric studies. Okay, parametric studies is also related to like some form of analogy, but analogy is usually you only base it on one unit, for example. Whether it's numbers, whether it's meter, whether it's km, and all that. But when we talk about parametric, you will determine a few components to your project. Okay, so if let's say for manhole, you have got manhole numbers and also the pipeline length, so that is two components, then you can use parametric studies. Then let's say for structure, you can use enclosed space, you can use or you can use floor areas plus wall area, like you can use two different parameters here. And then or you can use concrete with steel bars. Yeah, that could be also a few different parameters in terms of material as well. Yeah, so it depends. Okay, so yeah, you can split up into different parameters for your project as the known parameters that you've already got some form of quantity. So meaning that you must have a different component, like a few components that is quite ready for calculation. So this is a time that you can use parametric studies. But obviously at this stage you haven't completed the design, so it would be a bit illogical for you to sit down and do the design. Like do the calculation based on the design, because you don't even have a proper set of drawings involved, so probably you have some site plans with some form of sketches or drawings on certain components of your projects, and therefore you use those components as your study and compare that with the components from your historical project data. Okay. Yeah, so you go by components. So you take the overall project sum. Okay, like let's say all project is, okay, you pick your components first. Let's say you pick 3 components, and then historical project is 45 million. Then what components are you looking at? So you're looking at component number 1, houses, component number 2, water pipeline, component number 3 is the drainage or the road, and then you can have component number 4, others, for example, and then you've got 4 components. So you split the 45 million into percentage. Let's say structure will be 50%, civil work will be 50%, so 50% drainage will take up, say, 20%, and then water take up 15%, the others will be all under 25%, for example. So then from there, the 45 million is split into different parameters. So then you can look at your own new project parameters and the quantity for that new parameters, and then reflect that one by one over to the new project. Okay, so that would be how we do parametric estimates. I mean, if you guys are not clear about this, I've done this before with many of you, I think, so I don't want to, like sing like an old bird, keep on chirping about the same thing, you see. So, I mean, if you do have any confusion, I do not mind to spare another maybe, half an hour or maybe 1 hour with you guys, separately. Like, I don't want to, waste people's time, So if let's say you guys would say, okay, I think I want you to show us the calculation, how to do the calculations and all that, then yeah, maybe I can set up for a lunchtime or something like that. Now, because Puasa, most people are not out for lunch. Yeah, so yeah, I can have a lunchtime, half an hour, 45 minutes class with you doing that as well. That's fine. Just let me know. Okay. And yeah. Then of course we have definitive estimates whereby you are looking at, all up rate. All up rate means that within the rate itself already, you've already calculated labor, machineries, and also material for 1 unit. Okay, so for 1 unit, you create an all-up rate. And this is a rate that you have to come up with. So once you create the all-up rate, and it will be applied for all concreting work, apply for all steel work, apply for all manhole work, apply for all pipeline works, or apply for all drainage work, for example. So that all-up rate is more detailed. So it means that in that all-up rate itself, you've already taken some of the historical data and actually convert that to different components of your job, and then come up with a specific one rate. It can be something like this actually. Like the unit cost to do furnishing is 2,300. The swimming pool is the unit cost is like this. A parking lot, one parking lot is 1. This rate here is already inclusive of everything. Okay. Yeah, so you need to come up with, let's say I'm doing 1 meter square. Okay? In that 1 meter square, I need 2 guys working. I need how much material? I need what machineries, and I need how many units of this machinery, and all this you convert this material, labor, machineries into an per unit rate. Okay, so it will take this 1 meter square, for example, will take me one day to complete. Okay, everything is based on one unit. Okay, 1 unit, 1 day. So these are the rate. Okay, so let's say the rate for 1 meter square of parking lot is actually 200 ringgit. Okay, then you've got like how much? Your parking lot is what? 2 meters by 5 meters, maybe, or 4 meters. So that is about 4 times 2 is 8 meters square. So then you've got 200 ringgit. That is 1 meter square lah. So you've got 8 meters square. That will be about 1,600 ringgit. So then that will be your unit cost. Okay, and if you apply over 150 parking lot later, that will be the cost. Okay, so this is how we do the calculation. All right, something like that. Okay, so that is quite common. This is quite a fast way, but as you practice more, all-up rate is actually better than parametric, I would say, because all-up rate, if you have a lot of these different rates that is already in your pocket, meaning that you collect a lot of rates. People collect stamps, people collect cars, people collect, things, but you collect rates up. So yeah. So yeah, I mean like you could actually do that and then update those rates all the time. And if you are a designer, like a consultant, normally you would have a lot of this sort of rates in your pocket actually. Like so you can actually pull it out and in your record previously, to build 1 meter square, you have to do some analysis lah. This one is not like you can get it from somebody kind of thing. I'm like a lot of these people, I mean, like a lot of other consultants and all that, they may have it, but then they may not have it like so much so that they have already got a table, a file that is listed there, and then they will give it to you, that kind of thing, It's not like that. So what they will do is they will look at this is the new project, and then they will look at some of the project they have done before, and then they see the rate, the cost of doing that particular part, and then they will say that, oh, okay, these are the complete that with labor, machineries, and for 1 meter square or for 1 meter, this is how much it will cost. Not everything inclusive already. That would be the fastest way. And then they will factor up or factor down based on the time of the project for the new project, the location and all that. And they will do some factoring as well. And then apply that to a specific part of the project. So they may pick up those rates from different projects, not only from one project. So because the project that you embark on could be a few different components that is not necessarily the same as from older projects. Let's say you have a hotel project, but you've never done a hotel project, but you could take apartment building costs, and then look at that and compare that with your building costs, and then you can take maybe some traffic or road project traffic costs car park and all that, and then apply that to your project as well. So it can come from different projects. So it's difficult to ask people to give the whole list to you. What you can do is the best thing I can say is take references from different projects that is already completed, and then work out your own upgrade from there. That would be the fastest way. Otherwise, like I say, you could just look at your own experience of constructing one unit or 1 meter square or 1 meter, let's say 1 meter of pipeline. 1 meter of pipeline, I need 1 meter of pipe, I need 2 main layer, I need 1 excavator. So what is the rate for 1 excavator? 500 ringgit per day. Then my pipe is 500 ringgit per meter, that's 1,000. And then I've got 2 main layer. Each main layer will cost me $250 per day. That is another 500. So to do 1 meter of pipe, my all up rate is 1,500. You want to factor a little bit other things in it, also can. Then you factor it in, that will be 2,000 meter per meter. Then if you got like 60 kilometer, you essentially apply that throughout the whole project. So meaning that 2,000 times 5, 60,000 meters. So that will be your capital construction cost expenditure for pipeline alone. Then you may look at the manhole. So 1 manhole will cost 5,000 ringgit plus all the concrete, labor, machinery. So you've got like 20 manholes, and the 20 manholes times by 5,000 ringgit. How much? And that will be your whole construction capital expenditure outlay. So you can do that. You can build it up yourself, or you can refer to older projects and then do some factoring work on the construction or upgrade. Is that understood? Very clear already. Okay. All right. Then, of course, coming up to the detailed estimates. Okay, this one is of course something that every one of you must know how to do, and it is because the other method sometimes is if you're not in the planning area and all that, you may be a bit not so in touch not so all the time you have to do it. But if you're in, let's say, developer like what some of you are in at the moment, you may be more involved in the initial preliminary costing work and all that. But I think this is detailed costing work is something that all engineers are trained in, and You must learn how to do this properly. And your assignment involves doing this, okay? So what you need to do is of course, in your detailed in your detailed estimates, you must, when you do detailed estimates, it's pretty much the drawings are out already. It means that the design are completed or near completion already. Then otherwise, you absolutely cannot do a detailed estimates, okay? So what happens is you must have a work breakdown structure. Previously, the other things that we're talking about just now, it can be based on components and subcomponents, but this is actually on the work itself. Okay, all outbreak can also be based on the work itself, but detailed estimates is definitely going to be on the work itself. So PBS is probably for conceptual, for analogy estimates. Parametric is definitely for PBS, product breakdown. Then all outbreak can be for product. It can also be for product. It can also be for work itself. So it's either. Then WBS is definitely going to be for the detailed estimates. Detailed estimates, definitely you have to be on work breakdown. It's definitely going to be WBS, not any part of the components or whatever. So doing a good WBS is the first step. So first and foremost, you need to do WBS, okay? This is like a sample WBS, which is really good. I think, I'm not sure Dr. Lee show you this before, so it could be a overlap. So then after that, you do your resources planning. Okay, so you plan for your manpower. Okay, you plan for your manpower, you plan for your machineries. Okay, so what machineries that you're going to be using and how many that you plan to use and all that, so you can plan that out first. Then what normally we do is we will give your work some form of numbering. Okay, some form of numbering, and then from that numbering you can also plan that, let's say the code, code here, that using this particular like let's say 6.1, you're going to use this bar bender guy, or bricklayer or carpenter and all that. If you put that, I mean this is different way of presenting it lah. I'm not saying that it is a must lah, but if you do have your work breakdown that is actually quite repetitive, then this one will be, you cannot use the coding that you use for, you cannot use this sort of coding that you have for your, you cannot use the coding here. Okay, so that one you have to use a separate coding. But if let's say your work breakdown is very, very clear, it's going to be just like all the drainage work, sewage work are all concentrated together, then basically your coding for your labor, machineries, and all that can be based on the same, can be based on the road work itself. Is this, or then your coding can be applicable to this part only, so it's a bit easier lah, huh? Yeah. Well, but yeah, just or you can just do your general coding lah, huh? Sometimes we put this coding here because in the final estimates, instead of writing these people's name, long like that, you just take the coding. You see, so that is also one way of doing the coding as well. So you can either coding here related to your work breakdown, or pick the coding here later, apply to your detailed estimates. That is the coding that we can use now. Then after that, these are all machineries now. Then after that, we will be talking about productivity, which I think Dr. Lee went through with you. So with different workforce, you have different kind of productivity rate. So you understand their productivity rate. Okay, and this is a bit small, so I'll try to enlarge it a little bit. So from the productivity rate, you know how to convert that into your duration. Okay, so let's say give you example, better. Okay, so here, let's say you're talking about Bakao Pao. You're actually doing your, is this story? How many points? Yeah. So what you need to do is like you describe your work, okay? Or I give you something that is a bit more straightforward. Like let's say construction of power caps. So construction of power caps, I'm going to use what material, what quantity, okay? And then from there, I will estimate how many workers that I need, okay? No, sorry. I will for confirm, I will need to know what type of workers or what type of machineries that I need first, and then I will look at their production rate. And from their production rate, I will work out on per worker, how many days do I need, okay? So then if machineries will take higher, workers will take higher or machinery will take higher, then it will be based on finally the duration will be based on the higher one, meaning that the higher one that needs the productivity that is lower, so therefore it takes more days, okay? Because the rest is either you go by machine, then the workers are following, or you take by the workers and the machines are following. So depending on what kind of work, some works are very labor intensive, some work are very machinery intensive. So the workers are only there to guide or to actually do some clearance and all that. So that one is very much machine based. So when you do that, when you compare the productivity rate, so you're talking about one unit and one unit, and therefore how much of duration you will need to take for that particular job. So this construction of power, it will take 7 days. But of course, if we talk about when you calculate that and you say, oh, it will take me 45 days, that is too long. So then you may have to upgrade your number of machineries and workers. So if let's say machinery power cap is labor intensive, so you may need to put 2 groups of people. So 2 groups, instead of 45 days, it will cut down by half. So that means 22.5 days or 23 days. So 23 days, you've already cut down by half. Are you okay with that duration? If you're okay with that duration, then we proceed with it. Okay. Then if you're still not happy, you can even have 3 teams of people working from 3 corners. Then yeah, so then you will have 3 teams, then you will cut down 45 days, 15 days. So you're happy with the construction of power caps for 15 days, then that's it, case closed, 15 days. Otherwise, when you do it the first round, it's always based on one person, one unit, or one team. So let's say piling work, like you want to pile. One team, 5 workers, or 4 workers, what is the rate for what is the productivity rate of these 4 workers to do 1 point? If one day they can only do 5 points, that is their productivity. And then how many points do you have? You have got 100 points. So one day they can only do 4 points. That means that will take them 20 days to finish all the piling work. And if you feel like that one is a bit too long, then you may have to get another team with another machine that will actually make the difference in terms of cost already. Okay, so that is why we need you to finish your first assignment, to properly study your resources that you're going to put in and the duration that you will be applying these resources onto. The total time that is taken to finish the project with the amount of resources that you've already determined. Is this all? When you do the first draft, okay, but of course you don't rub away the first draft. What we do is we take the first draft, you put in as one team or one guy or one machine, and then come and take a look at the activity duration. Then after that, you adjust. In your second draft, you can put it as a second draft. You should show this in your report. If you don't show it in your report, we don't see that kind of thought process that you have, you see. So what we do is, yeah, you can show appendix 1, appendix 2, appendix 3, you see. So appendix 2 is version number 1 based on one unit, and then after that, appendix 2 final adjustments, final units, so therefore the final duration. So you see, the main thing here is you need that number of resources and the duration for you to be able to do your costing, detailed costing work. So this is important. Okay. So I think determining the duration, that is, you know, 4 or 5. Okay. And then you do your Gantt chart. So yes, so without this Gantt chart also okay. But of course, if you have the Gantt chart, is actually better because we will see some activities are parallel. So you may need to employ different team of people working, and that will make a difference in terms of the cost. See, if you have parallel team of people working, that means you've got 2 teams working. Then the subsequent activity is using the same team of people working. So instead, if you're paying your workers monthly, then you see the adjustments of the resources is actually not employing different team every month. You see, so it's like a repetition of different team, but you pay them over the months. You see, so yeah, if you have parallel team, that means you have to have 2 different team working. Okay, or you've got few different activities going at the same time, then you've got different team working. So yeah, so that means the cost for that particular month is a lot higher. So yeah, understanding your Gantt chart is important, but if you really don't have a Gantt chart, but you already have the activity duration and the number of resources that you put in, you still can proceed with your cost calculation. But it's just that when you do this later on, I mean, when you have the Gantt chart later on, you may realize that your costing is a little bit off, okay? Shouldn't be that much off, but that it will make a bit of difference. So what happened is after that, you see, after that, you will punch into, yeah. Well, this is not the right one. Yeah. So I give you some samples here. I've given you some samples for the rates for soil. This is something that is sometimes a bit hard to find. So you can take this as a sample. Okay, and see how the different testing, soil testing rate and all that. Yeah, then yeah, so what happened is this one here also is the productivity. Okay, it's a productivity. Yeah, this is something that I want you to take note of. The upper page is actually almost as similar as the one that I showed you just now. So let's say now you are going to convert whatever units. I mean, now you're going to convert your activity duration and also your productivity rate, all these things, your resources number into your sorry. I actually wanted to sneeze, but it didn't came. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so yeah, so what you do is actually this one here, if you've already done it in other tables, you don't have to put it in the same tables if you don't want to. So this is like a typical estimator worksheet that you can keep, you see, for yourself. I mean, I'm showing you as examples, but you can always modify and make it better looking and all that. So on one hand, you've got your work breakdown structure with 3 layers to it, and then after that, you can have this one here is management and services. If you're going to have, some students ask me, how do I cater for general and preliminaries and all that? So yeah, you can actually put this under management and services if you want to for P&G. And then after that, with the solid kind of like construction work, you must have material, machineries, okay, manpower. Okay, so here, what happens is you will list it down, let's say, for different works, okay, you will create Like let's say here we've got like this is still show you something that's a bit more solid, house and all that kind of stuff. It's a bit easier for you to understand. Soil investigation. Okay lah, reinforcing, huh? Okay, reinforcement bar. Okay, so when you do your, constructing of this construction bay joint bay construction, so part of it is your concrete, your formwork, your bar. This is not material. This is the work. This one is not written very well. This one have to be like installation of the reinforced bar, construction of the formwork, or cutting and all that. Be a bit more specific in your activity, in your work activity. Don't just write things like material like this. So what happened is, what we do is we will look at the confirm on the numbers of people and machineries that are working. Then after that, what we do is with material, you will list down the material, what numbers of material and the rate. Okay, then that with the amount of money for the material, and then you look at the machineries, and the machineries like bar bending machines, you use one, and then what is the rate for how many days that you're going to use it for, then what is the rate for it, and then your bar benders, you'll have your bar benders, how many bar benders you're going to use, one or two. So that one already depends on your previous analysis at the earlier stage, whereby you're confirming that you're going to use two bar benders or two team or two three and then three or one or whatever, what is their rate and how much they will do it over one day, that is their rate, and then how many days they are doing it for and all that. So then finally you calculate your subtotal for this bar bending work with machineries, with I think bar bending machine, I think it comes with the bar bender. That's why it does that. We didn't put anything here. So again, sometimes it's very clear. The machine comes with the workers, so you only put it at one place. Either you put it at the machine or you put it with the bar bender. So normally, like machine equipment, it can be person with equipment, or if it's a machine, so usually you put it at the machine come with the operator. So you don't split excavator and you put an operator here. Okay, don't do that. Yeah. So better off you put in bigger machine that comes with operator, you put it under machine. Some equipment that comes with the person, you can put it under the the resources under manpower. Okay, so I mean that is not a rule. As long as you set it down properly yourself, you understand that yourself, then you don't overcharge. Here you got one and then here you got one, then the rate becomes a double sort of thing. So then it's like overcharging. So cost will be a bit too high. Then you won't be able to win any tender if the cost is too high. Right? So what happens is, so you do this calculation, you work out on this, and until here, it's actually going to be very simple already. As long as you've got everything planned out properly in the first place, it's about slotting the detail in at different location of your charts, okay? At different location manpower. So it's better if you do a bit of color coding to it, then it'll be a bit easier to read, you see. So then total cost will be the machinery plus the manpower plus the manpower plus the machinery plus the material. Then you add in wastage, you want to add in profit, or not so much of profit here. Normally we wouldn't put profit here. Just give you a bit of an idea. But you will put in miscellaneous or others overheads and company overheads. That is something that you can put down, and then you can put in miscellaneous wastage or other costs as well. So yeah, you can put some percentage to it, and then you can add it up. So what we normally would do is we wouldn't put anything here, but you add up all the total costs first, and then in the end, in the summary bits, you will add up other components of the cost. I mean, like you will do like a where's mine? Smaller this one, so I can see better. Where's my page? Huh? Should have a summary page somewhere to show you. Can't find it now. Yeah, summary cost. This is summary, but you can have it as a summary like this at the end. Okay, and then you can add in your other miscellaneous wastage contingency, like something like this, and then cost or whatever that you're going to tender for later on is pretty much based on how much profit that you want to make, and what sort of rates that you have, obviously. So yeah, like I said, you can add it at the back. Usually we will add it at the back, right at the back. After you have your costing, then you add in some overheads. You add in overheads or management fees, or management will usually add about 5 to 10%. Contingency, you don't really have to have contingency unless this contingency is you are worried that you miscalculate something, then you put in some, like this contingency is different from a contract contingency that you have at the end of the contract, whereby there's a contingency sum provided by the client. This is completely two different things. Okay, so this contingency, you better don't treat it as that contingency, because that contingency you cannot claim unless the client activate that contingency. So this one here, don't use the word contingency. Like, it's a very bad, confusing thing. So what you do is you can add up supervision, you can add up management and supervision, and you can add up wastage, okay, or you can add up some form of miscellaneous. Then these sort of things, it will cover what we mean by contingency here. So yeah, so put that down as a percentage and then work out on the final cost. So I think usually, additionally, all these miscellaneous and all that all add up, it shouldn't be more than about 15%. 10 to 15% will usually be quite common for any project. And then the profit margin will not be more than 10%. That is very high. Okay. Especially for big projects, most contractors will probably be making, like, unless it's a negotiated project or like negotiate only tender one. Otherwise, normally, I think 3 to 5% will be quite common among most contractors. That would be the profit margin like. Okay. So yeah, so you need to come up with all this for your project. Right? So come up with all this for your project. This sheet is very important. But usually, I think the main problem with students is how you present the project. It's very easy to do this presentation and put it in the appendix, but how do you show that you're calculating the cost in your project assignment? I mean, like in your report. That is something that I think is actually quite difficult. And not to say difficult, it's about how well you can flow your report. So what we normally do is we would suggest that your report have some form of project background, and then very good project background, and then your work breakdown, how do you do your work breakdown, and then whatever result that you got from your assignment, the activity duration, and also your productivity, and also the numbers of resources that is required, and then followed by productivity numbers and also activity duration. So then from there, how do you convert that into your costing calculation? Maybe you can do like general and preliminaries. You can give some examples of the calculations and then refer to the appendix. And then after that, you can do like activity 2, which is your site survey or your site clearance. Then you write a little bit about that and then do a bit of calculation samples for that and then refer to the appendix. And then finally, you pick up let's say you've got 12 major activity or 15 major activities. So you describe those activities, you take some samples out from every one of those activities and then do some samples calculation and then add it into the final cost. Then you do a summary cost table like what I'm showing you, plus all your miscellaneous or whatever, permit costs are. I mean, like if we're talking about construction costs alone, then it's construction costs. Then legal, as in doing SMP or doing some legal documents and sort of things, that one is separate calculation. Architecture, maybe separate calculation. M&E separate calculation, which we're just focusing on the civil and structural part of the calculation, and then all the if your work are just completely civil work, like let's say drainage work or pipeline work, then don't have other M&E work, then that's fine. I don't have architectural work, but if you can even put it under general and preliminaries, it's a project, but some projects are really huge, so you may also have other costs involved, like legal costs, like especially development project. If you're going for a development project, there will be other components of cost, such as permit, OP, all these agency costs that you need to do submissions and all the building plan submissions and all this. So there will be a lot of these additional costs involved that you may have to. I mean, I'm not asking you to calculate here, but you must be aware of it and try to write a little bit about that. Okay, and so that we understand that this is not the final capital expenditure. This is only the construction cost only, but other costs involved with other components that is not inclusive in this particular report. You see, you have to be very clear about that. Then, yeah, so that will conclude our part 1 of the assignment, which is about 15% of your marks. Then the other 15% will be in risk management, which I think will be related to, I will make it related to cost. What are the things you need to do a risk plan that can affect time and cost of the project? So only focusing on time and cost, I need you to do a risk management plan. Okay, so based on your activity, still your work breakdown, okay, and what can affect the time, what events can affect the time, what events can affect the cost, and then you come up with, let's say, 3 or 5 factors that can affect that particular activities. Finally, the cost and the time. Then you do an analysis on that. That would be the other part of the project, which is 15%. These things you need to do it in group work. If I ask you to do solo work, I think all of you will go and hang yourself. But if you're supposed to do it in 3 parts, I think somebody, have to work on it. You have to split your work carefully. I would say that try to split your work in such a way that the costing bit maybe, split into 3 parts, and then the risk part also split into 3 parts. Then you combine. At the end of the day, it'll be a lot faster. Otherwise, if you have so much activity or one person to do everything, I think, 5-6 weeks cannot finish on. Yeah. So with this, that's why I specify a group of 2 or 3. So you better, I think we have 3, right? We've got 12 people in this class, right? No, yeah, 8 plus 7 plus 5, 12. Yeah, 12 people in this class. So it should be successfully being split into 4 groups. Yeah. So you only hand in 4 reports at the end of the day. Okay, so 1 group, 1 report. You can, I think you can combine them together into 1 report, but it's easier. I think you will just split up the risk and the, you can split up the risk report. Otherwise, your report will be very, very long and it's a bit difficult to do formatting with it, I think. So yeah, go for 2 different reports. One is a risk profile for your project based on time and cost. One is the costing based on the activity that you've selected. Okay, so what I think for Dr. Lee's assignment, you've already done pair work or single person work. So individual assignment. So let's say 3 of you pick 1 assignment that is you feel like is the most comfortable that you want to work on now, and then use that as the background, use that as the WBS for your assignment. Okay. Right. So are we clear about this? Are we looking at a table here? Oops, so worried. Huh? Yeah, are we looking at a table? You are, right? Yeah, okay. Okay, so yeah, so finally, this is what we do in terms of detailed costing work lah, huh? Then once your estimate is complete and the budget is being approved, you essentially will it will be essentially the what we call the budget for the project. So what you need to do is to not bust the budget lah, huh, at the end of the day. So this one is trying to tell us that when you have enough of information, normally your measurement of cost or benefit will be a lot more accurate lah, huh? So yeah, so this is like, but of course, if you have so much information, you may have not so good, you know, like I mean, in the end, you may not be, or you may not be able to win the tender, or you may not be able to get the project because you have too much of information. So yeah, I mean, it's just about managing what to ignore, what to actually focus on when you're doing tendering work. So normally contractor needs to be very skilled in terms of calculation of this sort of costing work. Developer as well, you need to be able to do that as well, so that you know your capital expenditures, then how much you need to sell, and you know, and what are the other costs involved. So it's very critical whether you can make it or not. Okay, so the accuracy of the calculation is very, very important, and that relates to the information that you will get. Okay, so once it's budget already, means that you're already committed. Yeah, commitment is there already. So up pre-commitment up to commitment. So up until now we have committed. Okay, we signed the papers already. That contractor won the tender. We've done the cost calculation. Everybody knows this is going to be the capital expenditure. The client would not tell you that I will give you more money, you know, if you don't have enough. It's rubbish. There's no such thing. So once it becomes a commitment already, it's a budget, and that budget is something that you have to keep in all the time for the entire project. Okay. All right. I'm not sure how much you understand about S-curve and project control. Okay, with EV technique. All right. You guys good with S-curve? Are you any good with S-curve? Like, do you know you guys know how to do S-curve? This is usually for budget control. So is it post-commitment stage? Is once you've got that already, we need to arrange things like S-curve and all that for us to do budget control. So cost control is budget control. So we don't want to bust the budget, so we're going to consistently keep the budget within the certain you know, keep the expenditure within the amount that we keep it within now, you know, like, you know, you are committed to lah, huh? So we use techniques like S-curve and EV technique. Okay. I'll do is put it this way to make life easier for you all. I think we've already gone on for 2.5 hours without any break. I am already losing my voice, and I'm sure you're already sleeping halfway already, waking up already lah, huh? So I think I will stop here. What do you think? All right.
Okay.
Are you guys okay? Or you want me to go on? Okay. So what we do is yeah, we will stop here, and with budget control with S-curve, I will do some pre-recording for you guys. Okay. So then if some of you feel that I know all about S-curve, I do it every day, so I'm okay with that. So you can skip that if you want to lah, huh? You can skip that recording if you want to, but I will do 1 or 2 recording on S-curve and 1 or 2 recording on EV technique. Maybe about another 4. I suspect will be another 4 recordings, about 40 minutes or so lah, huh? So I will do that and I will put it up online. But up to now, whatever I've given you is enough for you to start the project already. So don't say that the project is too last minute. It's already given to you. I will put it up on eLeap as well, the actual wordings and all that, the project brief. But whatever I've briefed you today is good enough for you to start your project. Okay, so please do so. Then after that, I will put up this recording as well for people who did not attend the class. There's supposed to be 12. So I think Lau went off already because he's going to KL. So there was 10 people. missing here?
Dr. Sebastian unable to attend today.
I see. Okay, never mind. So you ask them to listen back to the recording, lah, huh?
Okay, Doctor. Okay.
Yeah, and our message store as well to listen back to the recording, and then I will give you guys another 30 to 40 minutes of recording on S-curve and also on cost control. That is a cost commitment part of the project, huh? Should be about 40 minutes, I would say, about 4 recordings, so you guys can listen to it anytime. So yeah, I think that's it, because normally it's better if we do this over two classes, but because of the time that is quite short for this particular program, there's many areas that we need to cover as well. So normally this one is only one with another MSc EM class, because they have the quality class taken out already. So that one, they have more time over there. So we normally will cover course for 2 weeks. But no lah, here we wouldn't, okay? So what I'll do is, next week, I will work out with Dr. Lee. If she can take risks, then you guys do risks first, so that you really get all the assignments, all the project punya knowledge first for you to start it off. Then I'll come back with you on quality. If not, then next week I'll do quality class with you, okay? Yeah, don't worry, we will work it out, okay? So now, yeah, we finish here today. Then I will give you some more recording. You can listen it later on during Rayaka or whatever, when you are a bit more free, not working, because it's not critical for you to do assignment with that, okay? But whatever that we're doing up to here now is important for you to do the project. Right. Anyone else needs to have any questions, by the way? If Dr. Lee can come and do a class with you next week, what I will do is, with my quality class, I will put aside half an hour at the end just to let you show me your assignment. Okay?
Okay, Doctor.
Okay. So I need you guys to start working on it, ladies and gentlemen, now. And yeah, and then after that we will 7, 8, 9. Then we're gonna have a physical week as well. So during the physical week is a good time for me to review all your assignment as well. So please, everybody, please do the assignment, finish up your assignment, start your project, so that when week 9 comes, at least I can go through group by group to look at your assignment. Because I really need you to score, okay? To score and do well for the project and assignment. Right. So once I put up the recording already, should be by the end of next week, I'll put up some recording for you guys on the post commitment stage. Right. Okay, that's all for me for today. Any other questions? If no, then we will call it a day. Okay. Right. See you guys.
Thank you, Doctor.
Bye, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor.
Have a good weekend. Bye bye.